We always said he was a triple-double waiting to happen. A lot of people don't know what he gave the game.
Lafayette Lever, aka Fat Lever, born August 18, 1960. Today's feature is the story of a guy the basketball world usually forgets as one of the best at his position in his prime. A prime that lasted 8 of 11 NBA seasons, where he scratched the surface of what would eventually be in Russell Westbrook. As far as players that did everything on the floor, you have guys like Oscar Robertson, Magic Johnson, Nikola Jokic, Lebron James, and Jason Kidd that stand out all time, and rightfully so. Before Westbrook's dominance from 2014-15 to 2018-19, these were the measuring sticks for the term all-around offensive players, but adding Westbrook to this list completely changes the conversation, seeing as he's the smallest in height, but outmatched them all in his effort and energy he brought on every play, and how he's always been underrated for making his teammates better in his prime. Fat Lever isn't often named, but at 6'3" as well, he was on pace to being tops in this category a long time before Westbrook showed all it took was more energy than your opponent and outworking them on every possession consistently, on his way to becoming an all-time great and surefire Hall of Famer, overtaking guys like O.J. Mayo, Jared Bayless, and of course Derrick Rose, all rated above him in high school and college to be top 2 and one of the faces of his era point guards. Lever, like Westbrook, was also an Iron Man in his prime, missing just 20 games total his first 8 years in the NBA. His career really only took off after his first 2 seasons with the Portland Trail Blazers, who sat him behind their young point guard of the future, Darnell Valentine, his first 2 seasons, before trading him to the Denver Nuggets prior to the 84-85 season. A trade of your 11th overall player after only 2 years may seem like a bust story in the making, but the story of Fat Lever was just beginning. He'd go on to lead the Nuggets in assists and steals all 6 seasons, leading in scoring for 1 season, and tops in that category on a consistent playoff team that went to the conference finals his first year on board. He also led them in rebounding 3 of the 6 years. As far as triple-doubles, he led the league in 86-87 with 16 total, second in the league the year after, and third in 88-89. Despite his record-breaking accomplishments, he was only selected as an All-Star twice and All-NBA second team just 1 time. Defensively, he was a problem as well, averaging 2.2 steals for his career, once again only selected to an All-Defensive second team 1 time in 1988. Athletically, he was nowhere close to the specimen Russell Westbrook was, but the run he had as an all-around point guard needs to be acknowledged more often. But for these reasons, it's not what happened. Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Lafayette Lever was a 6'3" point guard from Pine Bluff, Arkansas, but moved with his mother to Tucson, Arizona at 11 years old. His all-time great NBA name was actually given to him by his baby brother that couldn't quite pronounce his name correctly, calling him Fet or Fat, and it stuck throughout the rest of his life. He helped his high school team to the first of back-to-back state championships. As a senior, he was All-State and an All-American, winning 28 games, 0 losses, and another state championship. Back then, tryout camps for college coaches to view players was the #1 way of getting a scholarship, and Fat attended the San Diego Look-See camp as an unknown player, but Lever chose to stay home with Arizona State, improving every season over the next 4 years. He was All-Pac-10 twice and second-team All-American his senior year. He was then selected 11th overall in the 1982 draft. Stunt number 1, initial opportunity. Beginning his career, Lever joined the Trailblazer team that had just taken a point guard in Darnell Valentine, 16th overall the year before in the draft, and had high hopes he would become their point guard of the future. Valentine was also an all-around point guard that played defense as well, so Lever came in instantly his understudy, trailing right on his heels 2 years in a row in assists per game, while both traded places, leading the team in steals per game as well. Back and forth the two went, Fat starting 45 games his rookie season and 22 the next, with Valentine dealing with injuries that hindered his development. With the decision to make, Portland eventually traded Lever to the Denver Nuggets in 1984 for All-Star Kiki Vandeweghe, who averaged over 29 points per game the season prior. This growth stunt is the perfect example of what the term even means, as Lever's growth was hindered for a moment, but going to a team he instantly had opportunity set him on a path of being one of the best point guards in the league and a two-time All-Star. He started every game but one he's played for the Nuggets, playing 3 full 82-game seasons, missing just 18 games in total. He went on to set many records for the Denver Nuggets, becoming the team's all-time leader in steals and steals per game to this day, second in assists and assists per game behind Nikola Jokic and Nick Van Exel. His best season came in 88-89, where he was second on the team in scoring, first in steals, assists, minutes played, and rebounding, playing 71 games for a team that made the playoffs, and guess what? He was not selected to an NBA All-Star, becoming one of the biggest snubbed years in history, seeing as he almost averaged a triple-double of 19.8 points, 8 assists, and 9.3 rebounds per game. Opportunity didn't come initially, but when it did, he took advantage and took off. Stunt number 2, knee injuries. One issue for Lever in his time with the Nuggets was, although he was great, the team, other than their first year together, were underachieving. In order to shake things up from being a playoff team not good enough to contend, they traded their All-Star to the Dallas Mavericks for 2 first-round picks in 1990. Lever, coming off his second All-Star and playing in 79 games where he led the Nuggets in scoring, assists, steals, and rebounding, couldn't believe he went from being the team's media guide cover athlete to being traded after a season they were swept in the first round. But off he went to Dallas, eager to start fresh with his new team. But November 9th, after just 4 games, it was announced Lever would be shut down for the next 6 weeks, eventually the rest of the season, due to a knee injury. He returned in 91-92, the team expecting all-star play and a leader that could settle the often in violation Mavericks at the time, but he managed just 31 games on the season, still clearly dealing with injuries to his knee. He missed the entire 92-93 season as the knee never quite fully healed, as medicine was in a much different place in the early 90s than it is today, where he would have been diagnosed, treated, and rehabbed much better. In his first 3 years with Dallas, he was clearly a wasted trade only because of his injuries, but news wouldn't get better from then on. Stunt number 3, never recovered. In 93-94, Fat Lever played 81 games on the season for the Mavericks and started 54 of them. But this doesn't mean he was back to being himself. He was just 33 years old, but already a shell of his former self getting to his new team. Matter of fact, for 4 years straight, he showed up only in physical presence for the team's roster, but provided very little in the production everyone had seen over the majority of his career. He played a career-low 24 minutes per game and had career-low numbers across the board. Had just roughly 6 points, 2 assists, and 3 rebounds per game. His career came to an end during the 94 offseason as the Mavericks cut their losses and released Lever, bringing his career to an end after no team picked him up. His body may have been back and good enough to appear in games, but it was clear going on 34 years old, he was not only past his prime, but unable to recreate the days of him being one of the best point guards all around in the league. All in all, Fat Lever was a great NBA player that didn't quite wind up on good enough teams during his prime to win a title, but individually he worked himself into being one of the Nuggets' best players of all time and turned himself into an all-star after being counted out early on in Portland. With the player training, medicine, and knowledge players and training staffs in the NBA have today, Fat Lever may have eventually played himself into averaging a triple-double, being the first since Oscar to do so before the world even knew about Russell Westbrook. His jersey was retired by Arizona State in 2012, and the Denver Nuggets did the same in 2017, placing his jersey in the rafters forever as one of the best point guards of all time. Salute, much respect, but for these reasons, his growth was stunted. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.